In a fight that took place on Friday evening, Jake Paul emerged victorious against the great boxer Mike Tyson. However, due to the way in which he won against Tyson, who is 58 years old, Jake Paul is facing allegations that the fight was rigged. The outcome of Jake Paul and Mike Tyson's fight is being accused of being fixed by a fighter who worked on the undercard of the event. The allegations have been made by the fighter who worked on the undercard. Paul, a YouTuber who turned into a boxer, cruised to victory against a 58-year-old Tyson, but he looked to take his foot off the throttle rather than aiming for a knockout versus Iron Mike. As a result of an inert bout, the scorecards read 80-72, 79-73, and 79-73 in favor of Paul. The boxer, who is 31 years younger than Tyson, even took the time to bow to his opponent in the last moments of the battle. As a result of the fight, Sarah Bailey, who holds the title of Women's WBA World Light Flyweight Champion and was in the corner of Lucas Boddy, a Canadian lightweight who was competing on the undercard on Friday night, stated that the fight between Paul and Tyson was a setup. In response to Yes News's inquiry about her feelings, Bailey responded, "Yeah, it was fixed. I'm sorry." He continued by saying, "I believe that Paul took it easy." A significant number of spectators exited the arena prior to the announcement of the outcome of the main event, and the crowd began to boo during the final phases of the competition. It was even revealed by Paul during the press conference that took place after the bout that he had no intention of knocking out Tyson. When Paul was asked if he slowed down throughout the fight, he responded, "Yeah, definitely a bit. I wanted to put on a show for the spectators, but I didn't want to go to the trouble of hurting someone who didn't deserve to be hurt. There was a time when Tyson was not engaging back, and I could just tell that his age was showing a little bit," she said. That violent war thing, that disappeared as the rounds continued to play out. "It is so easy for people to despise me. It is my purpose to say things that others will find offensive. That's something that I enjoy doing. Give me a couple of months if folks want to see more of what I have to offer. I made it a point to put up the best battle I could possibly put up. When a fighter is barely making it through the ring, it is difficult to make the situation entertaining. What other people have to say is irrelevant to me. What is it is what it is." However, the fact that Paul did not impose an excessive amount of punishment did not leave everyone feeling dissatisfied. Whether or not Andre Ward, a retired boxing champion, believed that Paul was carrying Tyson was a question that was discussed. In an interview with Co-Artist Sports, Ward stated, "I don't want to say that. It had the appearance of being that at times. If I may be completely honest with you, I am grateful for that. I had no intention of experiencing that experience. What could possibly go wrong if you get a few boos? What could possibly go wrong? On the other hand, you continue to venerate and pay tribute to a legendary figure." Additionally, Paul provided an additional explanation for his performance. Despite this, "I sprained my ankle 2 weeks ago, fully tore the ligament, the anterior ligament, and it seemed like I shattered the other side of my foot." He stated, "It was a terrible injury. The fact that I had to use crutches for 4 or 5 days was the only thing that prevented me from finishing my training camp. I am at a loss to explain how it did not become public or anything else. As a result of my absence from sparring for almost 2 weeks, my cardiovascular workout did not feel particularly fantastic tonight. The world of combat sports is one that often operates in the shadows of spectacle and entertainment, where business deals and personalities sometimes outweigh the actual sport. Over the past few years, this blurry line between sports and entertainment has been blurred even more, particularly with the rise of YouTube stars like Jake Paul stepping into the boxing ring. Paul, who initially made his name through social media and viral content, has managed to turn himself into a legitimate, albeit controversial figure in the world of boxing. However, his meteoric rise in the sport hasn't been without its fair share of drama, and now a new allegation is threatening to cast doubt on one of his most high-profile fights. In recent statements, a boxer involved in the undercard of the Jake Paul vs. Mike Tyson fight has claimed that the entire event was fixed. The boxer, whose identity has been kept anonymous for the time being, alleges that the match was prearranged in a way that benefited both Paul and Tyson, ensuring that the fight would be less about competition and more about profit. This revelation has sparked widespread debate about the integrity of modern boxing, especially as crossover events featuring social media personalities and retired fighters become more commonplace. To understand the gravity of this claim, it's important to first review the context of the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight, the figures involved, and why such an allegation is shaking the foundations of a sport that has long been plagued by accusations of corruption and manipulation. The Jake Paul phenomenon. Jake Paul, who initially made a name for himself on Vine and later YouTube, has transitioned into boxing in recent years, racking up a series of high-profile wins over former athletes and fighters, many of whom are past their prime. From knocking out former NBA player Nate Robinson to facing former UFC stars like Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva, Paul has built a reputation as a fighter who knows how to draw attention and create hype. His approach to boxing is unconventional, to say the least, often blurring the lines between entertainment and sport. However, his boxing journey has also been controversial. Critics argue that Paul's rapid rise through the ranks has been due to hand-picked opponents who are either too old, too inexperienced, or simply out of their element in the boxing ring. Despite this, Paul has been able to use his immense social media following and savvy marketing to turn these matches into major events, often generating millions of dollars in pay-per-view sales. By 2023, Paul had built such a large and loyal following that he became a major draw in the world of combat sports. This set the stage for his next big fight, an exhibition match against none other than Mike Tyson, one of the most legendary figures in boxing history. The Tyson factor. Mike Tyson, the former heavyweight champion of the world, is an icon of the sport. Known for his explosive knockout power and dominant reign in the late 1980s, Tyson's name remains synonymous with boxing. However, Tyson's career has been marred by numerous controversies, including legal issues and struggles with mental health. By the time he retired from the sport, Tyson was no longer the fearsome force he once was. In 2020, Tyson made a highly publicized return to the ring in an exhibition match against fellow former champion Roy Jones, Jr. The fight was largely seen as a nostalgic event rather than a serious competitive bout, and it ended in a split draw after 8 rounds. Tyson's return sparked interest in the idea of him participating in more exhibition matches, especially against younger fighters with large fan bases. The prospect of a fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson made sense from a business perspective. Tyson, although much older and out of competitive shape, would bring a level of legitimacy to the event. On the other hand, Paul's growing popularity would attract a massive audience. The match would draw viewers from both the world of boxing and the world of social media, ensuring huge pay-per-view numbers and a global spectacle. But this dynamic, while profitable, also raised concerns among critics about the legitimacy of such an event, particularly as it was clear that Tyson was no longer in his prime. The allegations of a fixed fight. The claim that the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight was fixed first emerged from a boxer working on the undercard of the event. According to the boxer, the entire event was rigged in order to ensure that both Tyson and Paul would emerge as victors, maintaining their respective marketability and public images. The boxer, who spoke to reporters under the condition of anonymity, claimed that both Tyson and Paul were aware of the outcome of the fight before they even stepped into the ring. The source suggested that Tyson, being a savvy businessman and recognizing the potential for massive financial gains, agreed to take a dive in exchange for a lucrative payday. Similarly, Paul's team reportedly negotiated an agreement that ensured Paul would be presented as the victor, even if the fight were to end in an unusual or controversial fashion. This claim is further fueled by the peculiar nature of the fight itself. Paul, who had built a reputation as a brash, arrogant fighter, entered the match with an aggressive attitude, while Tyson, despite his experience, appeared much slower and less motivated than in his prime. Many observers noted that Tyson's movements seemed labored and that he struggled to land clean shots on Paul, who was much younger and had a significant size advantage. Tyson's punches, while still capable of causing damage, lacked the ferocity and speed that once made him a feared heavyweight champion. Moreover, the pacing of the fight seemed to follow an odd pattern. Tyson, despite having the experience to outlast Paul, was content to let the fight drag on without pressing his advantage. Meanwhile, Paul, rather than employing a typical boxing strategy, seemed focused on playing to the crowd and maintaining his persona rather than seeking to defeat Tyson in a traditional sense. Some critics argue that this behavior suggested a preordained outcome, with neither fighter genuinely attempting to push the other to their limits. The anonymous boxer working on the undercard further emphasized that the contractual agreements surrounding the fight were unusual. According to the source, there were clauses in the contract that dictated how the fight should proceed, ensuring that both parties were protected from lasting damage and that the outcome would not affect the long-term careers of either Tyson or Paul. This, the boxer claims, is a common practice in exhibition matches designed to generate revenue, but not necessarily crown a true champion. The business of entertainment boxing. While accusations of a fixed fight are not new to boxing, the rise of crossover events featuring social media stars and retired athletes has only complicated the situation. These events, often described as entertainment boxing, have proven to be highly profitable, but they also raise important questions about the integrity of the sport. Exhibition matches between famous figures, such as Floyd Mayweather's fight against YouTube star Logan Paul, have been marketed as for fun or for charity, with the outcome often considered secondary to the entertainment value. However, as these events become more mainstream, it becomes harder to ignore the financial incentives behind them. The potential for these matches to be fixed, or at least heavily influenced by commercial interests, is significant, as both fighters, promoters, and networks have a vested interest in ensuring a profitable outcome. In the case of the Jake Paul vs. Mike Tyson fight, it is plausible that the event was designed to maximize profitability, even if that meant compromising the integrity of the competition. Tyson's legacy as a champion and Paul's rising star power were both incredibly valuable assets, and it would not be surprising if business deals were made to ensure both of them walked away with their reputations intact, regardless of the actual outcome in the ring. Reactions from the boxing community. The allegations of a fixed fight have sent shockwaves through the boxing world. Prominent figures within the sport have voiced their opinions on the matter, with many expressing concern about the direction that boxing is heading. Hall of Fame trainer Freddie Roach, who has worked with some of the biggest names in boxing, criticized the event, calling it a mockery of the sport. Roach pointed out that the legitimacy of boxing is compromised when high-profile matches are staged more for entertainment value than competitive spirit. Others, however, argue that the rise of entertainment boxing is simply a reflection of the times. In an era where content creation and celebrity culture dominate, it's not surprising that the lines between sport and entertainment have become increasingly blurred. As long as fans continue to buy into these events and the fighters and promoters continue to make money, some believe that these fixed matches will only continue to proliferate. What's next for Jake Paul and Mike Tyson? The claim that the Jake Paul vs. Mike Tyson fight was fixed raises important questions about the future of boxing, especially in the realm of exhibition matches. While it's impossible to know for sure whether the fight was indeed prearranged, the idea that the integrity of the sport may be compromised for the sake of entertainment is a troubling one. If the allegations prove to be true, it could set a dangerous precedent for future events, especially as more and more celebrities look to capitalize on the lucrative world of boxing. As for Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, their futures in the sport remain uncertain. Tyson, now in his 50s, is unlikely to return to competitive boxing, but his influence and name recognition will continue to make him a sought-after figure in the world of exhibition matches. Paul, meanwhile, will likely continue to capitalize on his ability to draw attention, even if the legitimacy of his fights is questioned. In the end, what matters most for both of them is not whether their fights are real, but whether they can continue to sell out arenas, break pay-per-view records, and keep the spotlight on themselves. As the world of boxing evolves, it's clear that entertainment is now just as important as competition.